Are you looking for a new podcast? Or maybe you just love celebrity interviews and can't get enough of them? On the Tis Yourself podcast, the Todd, aka Rob Maschio from Scrubs, told me about his first time speaking to a group of surgeons.
And I was just like, listen, guys, when in doubt, the Todd's prescription for everything is less moaning, more boning.
Or you want to find out more about how Joe Exotic had such a vendetta against Carol Baskin when she had this to say about him.
Because I've never even spoken to Joe.
Find out all of this and more on the Tis Yourself podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Last week I spoke about Susie Spirit and how she dislocated her elbow completely when she did a basic move such as a sunset flip. No, I'm not going to describe it again. It's a silly move, according to one Sid Justice who tried doing the move once. And he is a big, tall wrestler that has been hurt in the ring, of course. Just ask anyone about a Sid Justice injury and they will squint and remember one particular injury of his besides the whole scissor fight he had against Arn Anderson. But Susie Spirit, she broke her elbow, and that too was rough to watch back. Of course, I tried looking for others besides the one that I already did know about, but I couldn't find any outside of just WWE, so I went to the dark side of the internet. The one place where you can find just about anything, right? No, not really. I went to Reddit. Thank you to the Redditors for coming up with these answers. They included videos. I'm not going to include the videos. I feel describing it on its own is just bad enough. So the first one is from Reddit handle ZZW underscore V1RUS17, spelled virus. There is a video on YouTube from the channel Cyborg Punisher that was uploaded 14 years ago at a school gymnasium in front of maybe a few local people. The company is IWAMS. A wrestler by the name of Mickey Knuckles, acting like Tarzan, jumping from a few feet away and landing on Sarah Del Rey. Mickey lets out a loud scream, and when the ref assessed the situation, got both of them out of the way for the camera to focus in on Mickey's broken leg. Yeah, it broke. The referee looks around and asks for a doctor. Fans took one look at the leg injury and squinted, went away, ran off, and Sarah Del Rey walked behind the camera after seeing the broken leg. It was disgusting. Nobody could take a look at it. I'm gonna stay away from that story. I told this story back on April. I told this story back on episode 31. Vice TV had a show called The Wrestlers, where this punk rock Canadian by the name of Damien Abraham from the band Fucked Up went around the world to take a deep dive into the world of professional wrestling. On February 19, 2018, they aired Yoshipuro, Japan's Finest Wrestlers. In the description for the episode, it reads, Damien visits Tokyo to learn why Japan boasts the finest women's wrestling in the world and meet the upcoming generation of female wrestlers. Damien went to talk to wrestlers in Stardom and found a co-producer of former All Japan woman Rasi Ogawa, who told him of one particular match and story behind it. They didn't play it on live TV, but they showed pictures. What they didn't think would happen is for everyone to search on YouTube, and it became one of those viral shares. One wrestling to a fan to another. You gotta see this. The story goes like this. On February 22, 2015, Yasukawa was scheduled to challenge Yoshiko for the World of Stardom Championship in the main event of Kurokanal show. However, the match resulted in a no contest when Yoshiko began to shoot on Yasukawa, legitimately assaulting her to the point that the match had to be stopped. Following the match, Yasukawa, with a bloody and badly swollen face, was rushed to the Tokyo hospital where she was diagnosed with a fractured cheek, nasal, and orbital bones, which would require surgery. The incident received mainstream attention in Japan and became known as Seishun Machi, a ghastly match. On May 1st, Yasukawa was forced to vacate the World Wonder of Stardom Championship due to the facial fractures inflicted on her earlier in the year. Yasukawa eventually returned to the ring on September 23, 2015. On December 1st, Yasukawa announced she would retire from professional wrestling on December 23rd. In her retirement match, Yasukawa and Kyoko Kamura defeated Haruka Kato and Kairi Hojo. Afterwards, Yasukawa continued working for Stardom as the manager of the Oda Tai stable. There's an update on the situation. She came out of retirement on December 13, 2021. Yasukawa teamed with Sado Ano against Natsuki and Natsumi Tomikawa at a Actress Girl Lee event, bringing back the Act Yasuzago character in ring for the first time since her retirement at year-end Climax 2015. At Actress, Yasukawa at times performed with a masked persona named Wild Bunny, first making an appearance on February 13, 2022, before performing as Act. As Actress entered its new era in 2022, Act performed a villainous unit named Beats Rebellion alongside Ayano Uri and Riko Fukunaga. I'm reading these names right? Correctly. I love that. On August 14, 2023, Act challenged Miku Ano for AWG Single Championship. Her first time competing for a title in years, however, was unsuccessful. Alright, did I stray too far? How about an to get savagely beaten because she asked for it? Not usually when it happens. It's the story of now woman wrestler Asuka. Another match that was, by the way, of YouTube and distributed online. The video was uploaded on September 30th, 2015, but the match happened on June 16, 2014. Basically a year before she would come to the States and make her debut on NXT. The match in question, Kana, now known as Asuka, and Naomichi Morifuji versus Meiko Satomura and Minoru Suzuki. If you haven't heard about Suzuki yet, he faced Samoa Joe like a year ago. Basically go to episode 23 of this show and skip over to an hour and 31 minutes and 40 seconds, and you'll get the gist of what Suzuki is all about. He doesn't care one bit. The match starts. Kana steps up and wrestles Meiko for at least a minute and a half. Kana hits one of her deadly stiff kicks to the back of Miko, and then walks over to Suzuki to slap him across the face. Everyone in the crowd already knew that she crossed the line. About 4 minutes into the video, Suzuki had tagged her in her partner, and we see an intergender match between Miko and Namuchi doing moves and rest holds. Namuchi finally tags in Kana at about 7 minutes and 35 seconds into the video that we see Suzuki start to stiff punch and kick Kana. At 9 minutes and 25 seconds into the video is when Suzuki starts working and shooting on Kana by wrenching the arm and having the appearance that he might break her. It's official. Everyone in the audience, possibly those watching the stream, are aware that they are going hard on each other, but Suzuki was holding back, so they say. And it's not until you reach 1953 into the match that shit is about to go down. Kana low blow Suzuki, slapped him, stiff kicked him in the headbutt to the head, even going as far as spitting him in the face. At 20 minutes and 17 seconds when you hear a loud thud when Suzuki headbutts Kana and knocks her out. After which he just continued to slap, kick, punch, and ragdoll her across the ring. And even the referee got involved and tried to stop this match by jumping on Suzuki. What am I doing? I thought that was just basic moves. I apologize for that. Let's get back to the basic move stuff that basically gets injured on someone. On September 24th edition of Monday Night Raw in 2018, Liv Morgan suffered a nasty concussion when she got kicked in the face in the beginning tag. In one corner, the Brie Bellas teamed up with Natalya Neidhart to face Riot Squad members of Ruby Riot, Sarah Logan, and Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan squared up against Brie, and she was quickly succumbed to her knees. Brie did the yes kicks that her husband Bryan Danielson is known for. 2 kicks is all it took for Liv Morgan to lose her breath and put her head down, which Brie accidentally kicked Liv in the face and knocked her out. Brie checked in on her by covering Liv and kicked out for a 2 count. After Brie tried picking Liv up to take her to her corner to tag her partners in. Fans went to Twitter and called Brie unprofessional. Brie fired back with a tweet of her own. Every match on Raw is an opportunity for us to entertain our fans. Our intentions as WWE superstars is to win the match, never injure our opponents. Thinking about Liv Morgan. And finally, how about an accidental punch that ultimately changed the card of a premium live event in just a matter of a week? On the November 12th episode of Raw, Becky Lynch led the SmackDown Women's Division in an invasion of Raw and applied the submission move on Rousey. During the melee, Lynch suffered a legit broken nose and concussion following a punch from Nia Jax. Due to the injury, Lynch was pulled from the Survivor Series match and chose Flair as her replacement. The punch was just an accident, but it still gets talked about to this day. The epic shot of Becky Lynch celebrating with the crowd and raising her hand while blood comes oozing down her nose will always be remembered. In the aftermath of the infamous punch, Nia Jax expressed her remorse for the incident. Speaking on Renee Paquette's podcast, she explained that the producers had instructed them to make the brawl appear real, but she never intended to inflict harm upon Becky. She admitted that she didn't even know she had hit in the midst of the chaos. Nia was genuinely scared and quickly apologized to Becky Lynch and even to Vince McMahon. She described the reality of the situation. I continued to get punched in the back of the freaking head, and I was like, good lord. I just turned around, and I really just go clear the person. Whatever angles I showed, my face wasn't close. I didn't punch her, but it did connect. I didn't even realize I was Becky. I only thought it was Lana. Then I look around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's blood everywhere, she added. Then I look and I'm like, oh crap, Becky's down. Then we go to the segment, everything happens, and I'm like, shit, that was me? I was like, oh crap, get backstage. She got taken up to medical immediately, and I'm worried about her. Like, what's going on? Then I'm also freaking out about they're slowly replaying it. Nia then revealed both Vince and Becky's reactions. I went to Vince and I was like, I'm so sorry. He was laughing, and he was just like, well, it's not ballet. So then I walked away. I was like, leave it alone. Then I'm texting Becky, making sure she's okay, and she's bugging the shit out of her. And of course, she's like, oh, that's fine. Becky Lynch, in a separate interview with Ariel Helwani, revealed the physical toll of the punch, noting that it resulted in a broken nose and a concussion. She said, I got severe concussion, I broke my nose, so I was in the hospital that night after the event. So I completely blacked out after I got hit, right? But I rolled up to the ropes and got back up again. I guess my autopilot kicked in and I smashed half of Raw, including Ronnie. So it turns out that my autopilot is a badass too. Welcome back to the show, my Cold Vibes family. I'm kidding. My Father's Behavior Squad, rise up. I'm Evo, and you are listening to episode 144 of the most important and consistent thing in my life. Welcome to another awesome show where I bring you movies and TV show reviews while doing it from under the apron. Before I get to glow, I mentioned a TikTok that has gone viral a few weeks ago, and I added my own twist to it about being a podcaster. You know, I happen to have gotten a lot of good reviews for that one. I'm telling you this because over the weekend I was sent another video. I will have the link in the comments to that video so you can all watch it. The video is called Quantum Reflection, and the main creator of the video is talking to his younger self, reflecting on how far he's come all the while his younger self is in awe of everything his older self has done. I do want to talk about the opening line of this video. The creator, King Odd, is talking on the phone with probably an editor for a film they are making, possibly about his life. He says, if I cut that, the third act falls apart. The protagonist has to go through this journey. That's the whole point of the film. He is annoyed by cutting that, but he tells the person on the other end that he will note it and is a bit of sarcasm and says, "Great talking to you." Obviously, I'm going to do this video, and I was waiting until I hit the 10K mark, which I'm closely there at the moment. I'm sitting at 9,980. If anything, I'm going to celebrate this weekend, and y'all know how I do celebrations. Back to this video. The opening line gave me a flashback. It triggers some memories. I was sitting there watching it over and over, thinking that this was going to affect me. The opening line made me think of when I started watching wrestling. If you don't know the story, go back to episode 11, where I talk about the origin of my story. Go back to me saying that I left in the middle of a fight between my mom and stepdad and found a safe space with my next door neighbor, whose son introduced me to my three favorite things: comic books, horror movies, and wrestling. That's the story I can't cut. Because of that, I fell in love with wrestling. Because of my parents arguing and me just going next door, I was in love with the thing I'm talking to you about to this day. Because of that, I decided to talk to my friends about wrestling, watch shows about wrestling, become involved in wrestling. I even was about that backyard wrestling life until I wasn't. For those that don't know, I'm in the opening sequence of a cult classic movie about backyard wrestling called Backyard Dogs, starring the Black Power Ranger himself, Walter Emmanuel Jones, and professional wrestler Frankie Kazarian. Look it up. Because of that one moment in my life, I met incredible friends that love wrestling. I met wrestlers. One, I had a dance battle against Grandmaster Sexy Brian Christopher. One of them was my childhood favorite because people said I looked like him, X-Pac. One of them was the first wrestler I ever met face to face, and he put me in a submission move because I said I didn't have any money for an autograph, but I still wanted a picture with him anyway, and he has recently just passed away, Virgil. And the other legend who I met at a meet and greet in 2008, and it was the best time of my life because I dressed up as him on Halloween in 1998. 10 years. He recently retired this past week. Sting. So yes, that opening line right there in that video gave me flashbacks of all the awesome things I ever did with friends that involved wrestling. The rest of the video is the creator talking to his younger self. Young him asking old him if he gets to tell stories. Their stories. And the older him is about to cry and say yes. And he also has a story that younger him wrote and that older him is using at the moment. A couple months ago, I was cleaning out stuff and I found printed out stories that I used for a wrestling e-fed. Side quest time. I know it's a story that could be used for another episode, but I wanted to tell you this. Since 1998, I used to write. If you haven't heard the bonus episode where I talk with my co-host Babel about music, you should go now. In one of those, I talk about an English teacher who told me I have a gift because I changed 2 song lyrics to talk about a subject that he had asked us to do as a project, and that was peace. He told me I'm good at writing and to keep doing it because one day I was going to do something with my life. Years later, the internet, I'm in a wrestling chat and this guy is asking if I ever heard of an EVET or what it was. I say no. He explains to me what that is, what it entails, the rules, the role plays, what I have to do, and that you get a championship belt if I'm good because it gets competitive. So you mean fantasy football? Yes. Fantasy football, but for wrestling. You mean fantasy wrestling? Yes. I guess that's what you can call it. We call it EFED. This is early 2000s. I didn't know any better. I didn't know about fantasy football until later also. I ended up doing it. It's about wrestling. Why not? I make it about wrestling. I create my own character. I'm in love with this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Or so I think. I do this for at least another 15 years. Same character, progression, growth, throughout the years. I mix comic book into it. I create my own stories outside of the wrestling stuff. I print some of this out and just leave it behind in a drawer to forget about. Side quest over. I found it a few months back. It was short, but it was to the point. I will have to do a separate episode on it because it is something that you all would love to hear, right? Back to the video. The younger version says this is so cool. He gets to be him. Older version says sometimes he wishes he could be more like his younger self. I felt that. I still feel like my younger self. I cry, I laugh, I yell, and I feel something when stuff happens in pro wrestling. Even those that call it fake. Yes, I get mad. But over the years, I have chosen not to. Not to get to me. Not to let it get to me. Let them. Let them say it. I'm enjoying it. My younger self is enjoying it. Who cares? Younger creator asks if they're going to be okay. An older version, without hesitation, says yes, they are. We are okay. I'm okay. We are no longer living in pain. Because I know my younger self would still be living at home wondering if he did something wrong. Just because I like wrestling a little bit too much, I guess. Yes, we are going to be okay because I'm not there anymore. I escaped that. My mom escaped that. And the best part about it is that my mom supports the podcast. Her son's talking about the thing that he loves. Why not? His younger self says everything counts. And he disappears back to his era. His old self is reflecting. The screen slowly turns to black and he adds in the words, "You're the future your younger self hoped for." Those words were true. I was a kid doing wrestling in the front porch and not caring if I got hurt by a doorknob to the face, which busted my lip. Yeah. I was already living in pain at home. Why not? Might as well, right? Go for it. As the kids now these days say, YOLO. I didn't care. I was a kid at school saying how much I wanted to be a wrestler. I was a kid at school saying that my dream was to be in a ring. I was that kid whose best friend showed him a videotape of him backyard wrestling with his other friends, and I excitedly said yes, I want to do this. Pain. I was that kid who on April 29, 2001 experienced his birthday by being in a real ring and wrestling with his best friend. I didn't tell anyone it was my birthday. This was already epic enough. I wanted to enjoy this moment. I was that kid who was an adult, got a podcast, and wanted to talk about things that he loved, wrestling. And last year, I was that kid who was an adult, pointing at the sky like there was a WrestleMania poster and said that I was going to be there one day and be picked to ask a question to the wrestlers at the post-interview. I'm still shooting for that shot because I'm still that kid.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dawn.
And if you've ever watched a TV show and thought to yourself, oh my god, that season finale plot twist was absolutely bonkers.
Or seen a movie and thought, wow, I need to talk to somebody about this train wreck immediately.
Then we think you'll fit right in with our podcast, I Hate It, Let's Watch It. We watch TV shows like Riverdale and Emily in Paris.
And movies like Deep Water, Killer Sofa, Rubber, and Deadly Illusions. And we give them the total rinsing they deserve.
It's basically group therapy for movie masochists. So come check us out wherever you stream podcasts.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
For those that are new, this is a recap and review episode of the TV series Glow on Netflix, a show about the gorgeous ladies of wrestling that was set in the 80s. During the episode, I will have bits of trivia here and there with additional interviews from the creators, directors, or stars of the show throughout the years. You know how I do it. All in all, it makes for an awesome episode. If you haven't yet watched Glow, I suggest you do so and follow along as I recap and tell you what I saw of the episode. And if you haven't yet, check out episode 123, where I talk about the first season and pilot episode of Glow, if you want to go back and listen. This is season 2, episode 7 of Glow on Netflix, titled Nothing Shattered. Directed by Sean Hayter, who directed season 1, episode 8, Maybe It's All Disco, Sheila's Birthday, and Ruth Getting an Abortion. Written by Sasha Rothschild, season 1, episode 4, The Dusty Spur, where we meet Carmen's wrestling family. Her father, her father and 2 brothers, they all move into the hotel, and Ruth continues to have problems with her character. And she also wrote season 2, episode 3, Concerned Women of America, the one where they do a PSA with Justine. Ruth and Russell try to go on a date, but it's sabotaged by Debbie. Synopsis. After an injury on set, Sam and the wrestlers rush to the hospital and wait anxiously for news. A long, simmering feud finally boils over. It's the same night as the last episode. It could have been an hour episode, but they went with 30 minutes for a total of 10 episodes every season. The whole episode takes place overnight, about after the wrestling show has ended. The cold open starts off with no music, as the last episode ended with no music during the credits either, but it immediately goes into Ruth writhing in pain and holding onto her ankle. Everyone's in shock. The last episode ends with Ruth yelling out, calling out Liberty Bell's real name, Debbie. Debbie realizes what she's done and goes to check in on Ruth, but Keith stops her and he checks in on her instead. Bash continues to announce, not knowing if the situation is real or not, saying the referee is checking now. Is Zoya pulling all our legs, or maybe it's time to call the professional paramedics? Keith leans into the rope and tells Bash that this is real. Shut up. She's really hurt. Keith asks Sam if they're stopping this match, not knowing what to do. Russell puts his camera down to record, but Sam continues recording, having that the show must go on mentality that you see in all these directors and or wrestling promoters. Russell gets in the ring. Bash, again not knowing if he should stop announces to the crowd that here comes the camera guy. Russell checks in on Ruth and Keith continues panicking, saying if they should stop the match or call the paramedics. Russell picks up Ruth, telling her that he got her. He tries to go to the rope but doesn't know how to get out of the ring while holding Ruth. So he gently places Ruth down, lets her get out, and then he gets out to carry her out of the ring and out of the arena. All the meanwhile, it's Sam that's still recording and catching the whole scene. Bash continues to yell, saying that this is ugly stuff. Zoya may never be able to goose-step her way through Red Square ever again. Fuck. The fans look confused, not knowing if this is part of the show or not. Debbie's in the ring, worried that she may have messed up. Bash tells the fans not to worry, to sit down. The crowd clapped their hands. Outside, though, Russell looks like he's going to his car to take her to the hospital, but he's stopped by the rest of the girls and Melrose, who calls him officer and a gentleman, that he can put Ruth in the back of her limo. Russell says he can drive her. Jenny says that's sweet, but they're her friends. They got it from here. They try to place Ruth in the limo without hurting her, but she's still in pain. Sam comes out to the parking lot and asks what the plan is. Cherry says Valley General's on San Fernando. Melrose says no, she's a Jew and she's driving, so they're going to Cedars. Cherry yells that be in traffic for hours. Carmen asks Ruth where does she want to go. Ruth cries that she don't care. She's in pain. Sam says, all right, let's just go to the close one. He turns to Ruth and tells her to look. Hey, you're going to be fine. It's probably nothing. Sam tells him to get in the car, but be careful. Russell tells him to be right behind him. Sam and Russell both watch as the limo drives off. Sam turns to Russell and tells him he could have carried her too, you know. But someone had to shoot the show, right? Sam walks to his car, annoyed by what his cameraman just did, which was the right thing. Russell looks upset and the Glow logo finally appears on the screen, making this the longest cold open on the show. Ruth and the rest of the Glow girls finally arrive at the hospital, still in their wrestling uniforms, being stared at by staff and other people. Ruth is being brought in on Carmen's back. Artie goes to get a wheelchair. Cherry says she's going to check them in. Ruth sits down in the waiting room and Sheila asks if she can lick her wound. She says saliva helps blood clotting. Melrose says she's not even bleeding. Sheila says that she might be bleeding internally. Jenny tells Sheila that she's freaking Ruth out. Melrose goes into her purse and gives Ruth a Valium. Artie brings the wheelchair to them. Ruth, who finally stopped crying, looks up at all the girls who stare back at her. They are all there for her in solidarity. Ruth asks, "Where's Debbie?" Where is Debbie? Debbie is taking a shower at the gym. She stands there taking all the hot water in. Bash walks right in with Liberty Bell's American flag costume and Zoya's long Russian sable fur coat. He realizes Debbie is naked and taking a shower and says he thought the place was empty. He looks the other way, but not really. He keeps staring at her and tells her they took Ruth to the hospital. Sam with them, and he stayed behind to clear the audience. He tells her he will leave, but she says it's fine. He can stay as she walks over to grab her towel. He still continues to try not to stare, but stares. No emotion on her face whatsoever, though. Bash starts to tell her a story about convincing his mom to fly him to New York so he can watch Bruno Sammartino fight Stan Hansen. It was at Madison Square Garden. Halfway through the match, Hansen did his body slam, but Sammartino didn't land right. And he says he remembers in the papers the next day there were these photos of him with a neck brace and crushed vertebrae. Bash sighs and says this is his fault. He shouldn't have pushed the wrestling so hard. Debbie tells him that they all knew what they were signing up for, even Ruth. Bash says maybe it's just a sprain. Debbie tells him that she didn't hear a pop. Debbie tells him that she heard a pop. I can't tell if that was a smirk or, oh shit, what have I done look? But she stands there with no emotion. Alright, so wrestling fact of the episode. The accident between Sammartino and Hansen happened on April 16th, 1976 at MSG, Madison Square Garden. Matt Pender of Pro Wrestling Stories wrote an article in a complete with quotes from both legendary wrestlers on January 10th, 2023, retelling the story of what happened that night. Stan Hansen says, I was really excited that the first night I walked into Madison Square Garden, my thoughts immediately went back to the gym when my dad and I watched the Friday night boxing matches from the Garden on television. I've always had bad visions, and I remember thinking the building was so big that I couldn't see the fans top of the grandstands. The show itself didn't sell out, but it drew 17,493 fans, which was still a respectable number. Little did I know that my first match with Bruno would end disaster. 8 minutes into the match, I hit him with my lariat move and put him on the mat, after which I brought him up into position for a body slam. When I was in the Dallas territory, I had several matches with High Chief Peter Mayabeya. I did a move where I caught Peter coming off the ropes and scoop slammed him. In the variation of that move, I would sometimes reach past the middle of his legs to the outside when I picked him up for the slam. Since my shoulders were stiff and Peter was really stocky, I would do it that way so Peter could slide down my back. He could then avoid being slammed by rolling me up with a pinning move. I went around behind him, pulled him up to a sitting position, and got a headlock on him. Concerned, I held it for a few seconds before whispering, "Are you all right?" He didn't say anything right away. He just sat in place. He finally said, "Give me a few seconds." When it happened, I knew I'd hurt him, but we all get hurt, and we all continue on lots of times. Bruno was in great shape, very muscular in his neck and shoulders. All the years of weight training probably saved his life, thank God. I was ready to up and quit. I felt bad because he was the one that gave me the thumbs up to come in, and he was a champion, a legitimate superstar before the media made people, and he gave young guys a chance, you know. A lot of people accused me of taking advantage of it after. Of course, I got automatic heat with Vince Sr. because I hurt the champion. I mean, really hurt him. I had heat with Ivan Koloff and Billy Graham and everybody else too because they missed out on opportunities to work matches with him. I was a green guy, you know, but it was one of those pivotal moments in my career. And according to Sammartino, it was his worst injury and most dangerous injury. He says, one thing I will tell you is that it was not that nonsense they wrote about in the Lariat. Editor's note, match promoters and Hansen himself would claim that Bruno's injury was his trademark Lariat maneuver that had nothing to do with anything. What happened was we had been doing what happened was we had been going for 15 minutes, somewhere around there. Pretty good action stuff. The thing that I did that wasn't smart of me was not realizing that a lot of guys were intimidated by Madison Square Garden. I had wrestled in Madison Square Garden every single month and headlined there 211 times and it sold out 187 times. And this, Stan Hansen was a young guy, you know. He was a big guy, 310 pounds and all. We were going at a pretty good pace. I think that the nerve, because Stan became good in the ring, I think he was nervous and what have you. He was tired, and I was really think nerves can do that to you. I think that when I was coming off the rope shooting tackles, he went to try to scoop slam me. And he couldn't quite do it. He dropped me on my neck and broke my neck. Everything is a blank after. It's a good thing there wasn't too much inside the head. My doctors told me that I came within a millimeter of being paralyzed from the neck down. That was by far the worst injury I ever had. When I came back and wrestled Stan Hansen only 2 months later for the return match after the broken neck, the police had to escort him from the dressing room to the ring and wait for him to take him back to the dressing room and then to his car. After the match, doctors initially refused to release Sammartino. They were afraid any movement to his neck would cause paralysis. Dr. Bernard Spiegel from Pittsburgh, however, got him out of the hospital in the end. When this injury occurred, Sammartino's parents were around 80 years old, and he was afraid that news of his injury would lead him to have a heart attack. His brother and sister had to help break the news to them, which left both parents very concerned for their son, and they encouraged him to retire. Bruno's wife, Carol, was more understanding. A short 2 months after suffering a fractured sixth vertebrae, Bruno was back in action where he would have a rematch against Stan Hansen. Sammartino would go on to win the quick match. Hey, it's Evo. We're going to get back to the episode you're listening to, but first, let me tell you about Dark Fate Creations. Dark Fate Creations are candles that are vibrant, colorful, marble tops, amazing, mouth-watering fragrances, fueled by lovely braided cotton wicks. Paper threads woven into every cotton wick for a clean, romantic, slow, and consistent burn. Each candle is unique from the next as they are hand-mixed and hand-poured right in Grass Valley, California. They use only coconut and soy waxes for a safer, cleaner, and longer burn time. That's almost 72 hours. That's like binging on all 130 episodes of the podcast. All fragrance blends have been heavily researched. Dark Fate Creations not only care about the look, fragrance, and quality of their candles and their other products, but also the effects they have in their customers' homes. So go to darkfatecreations.com. The link will be in the show notes.
In a world where true crime meets the supernatural and the unexplained,
where true crime and chills go hand in hand.
Welcome to Total Conundrum, the podcast that explores the dark, the eerie, and the downright mysterious.
Join us as we embark on a spine-tingling journey through the mysteries that keep you up at night.
We're diving deep into true crime stories, uncovering the most baffling cases, and exploring the twisted minds behind them.
But we don't stop there. We're also exploring the paranormal, from haunted houses to cryptids and all the creepy things that go bump in the night. Get ready for some supernatural thrills.
And what sets us apart? Prepare for a dose of dark humor as we navigate through the creepy and bizarre.
We've got it all. Bone-chilling tales, banter, and mind-boggling conundrums. You won't know whether to scream or laugh.
So grab your favorite snack, turn down the lights, and join us for a roller coaster ride of true crime and the supernatural, sprinkled with a bit of comic banter.
Stay curious, stay captivated, and let's dive into the world of Total Conundrum.
Now available on your favorite podcast platform. Get ready to be captivated, creeped out, and cracked up with Total Conundrum.
Back at the hospital, Melrose says that it's time for a Klonopin. Artie doesn't think it's a good idea since she already gave her a Valium. Melrose has half a Klonopin then. Klonopin, also known as clonazepam, is used to treat seizures, panic disorders, or anxiety. Melrose breaks the Klonopin in half and gives it to Ruth, who takes it. Sheila yells, "Why is it taking so long? Her friend's in pain! Do you hear her? Her friend's in pain!" Ruth tells Sheila that she's her Shirley MacLaine. Melrose says that the first pill just kicked in. A little nod to the legendary actress saying those words in the movie Terms of Endearment, which came out in 1983. And you bet I have a clip.
Ma'am, it's not my patient.
It's time for her shot. You understand? Do something. All she has to do is hold out until 10. And it's past 10. She's in pain. My daughter is in pain. Give her the shot. You understand?
You're going to behave.
Give my daughter the shot. Thank you very much. Thank you.
A nurse finally shows up to tell them the good news that they will have a bed ready for her soon so she will take care of her back and the rest of the Glow Squad can leave. Carmen says not a chance. Sam and Justine finally arrive asking why Ruth is still waiting. Jenny explains because it's not a gunshot wound. Sheila says she's being taken now. Justine's wardrobe punk band always never matches with the year, but this episode it does. She's wearing a Germs t-shirt, originally active from 1976 to 1980. The band's classic lineup consisted of singer Darby Crash, guitarist Pat Smear, bassist Lorna Doom, and drummer Don Bowles. Pat Smear, who we all know now is the frontman guitar for the Foo Fighters. Russell finally arrives and pushes past Sam to stare Ruth in her face, telling her, "Hi, how you doing?" Ruth, still high off the pill, says, "Hey, thanks for, well, you know." The nurse says that they are ready to take her in. Sam pushes past Russell, saying he got her. He wheels her away, giving Russell an evil stare and telling him, "His show. Capiche, Hercules?" Russell stares annoyed while everyone smirks, knowing what Russell is about to say out loud. What a fucking asshole. Everyone stares at him. He looks around the room and admits he likes Ruth. He says he was just trying to help. Justine says he helped. They all sigh it. Sam was just stressed out. Melrose agrees with Russell, saying he is a very big asshole. She offers him half a Klonopin to take the edge off. He says no thanks, but can someone at least call him to let him know how she's doing? They all say yes, and he walks away. Dawn tells Stacy that it was so scary it could have been happened to her. Stacy says, or her. They both say, or both of us. Jenny says it's like that movie Ice Castles, where the small town girl with big talent is cleared into the world of skating competitions, and then she goes blind, then she has to skate blind, and she does, and there are all these roses, but she can't see them. Cherry says whatever fuck that movie happened to Joe Theismann last Monday. 1 minute you're dropping backwards to pass a ball. Next, your leg cracks back in 9 places. Melrose says it's good that Sam was still filming, though, which makes for great television, and it will probably boost the ratings. Jenny says yeah, because maybe Debbie almost murdering Ruth to save the show. Rhonda looks at Jenny confused and asks if she thinks Debbie hurt her on purpose. Everyone looks around the room questioning as well. Alright, we gotta go back to the Joe Theismann situation and Cherry saying last Monday, which basically pinpoints the show to the second half of November. On November 18th, Monday Night Football game, which witnessed Joe Theismann's career-ending injury after a sack by New York Giants outside linebacker Lawrence Taylor, or LT. Big wrestling person, LT. The tackle resulted in a serious leg injury, and Theismann never played in the NFL again. Though the team failed to make the playoff, they remained the contention for the entire regular season. Next scene, Ruth is in her own hospital bed. Nurse Marianne is taking her vitals, who is played by Jessica Gardner. She voices Amy Madison on the podcast series Slayers, a Buffyverse series. Amy Madison was the other witch on the show, along with Willow, and was a mouse for at least a few seasons. Now I want to go back and watch Buffy and do an episode about it. What about it? Let's do that. Dr. Freeman, played by Jeremy Schultes, who has played Dr. Marty Peterson on 62 episodes of Chicago Med, walks in the room and asks Ruth if she is with the circus. Ruth tells him she's an actress on a show called Glow. He says he will have to watch it. Doctor says they will have to cut the boot to look at the left ankle. Ruth tells him they are important to her. Sam says he got this and starts untying the boot. Each time he touches the boot, Ruth winces in pain. Sam says he's going to go slowly. He tells her he hasn't done anything yet and she's crying. Stop crying. He slowly takes off the boot, revealing a massive bruise on the ankle. The doctor asks if she can feel her toes or wiggle them. He places his hand on the ankle and asks how it feels. She says it hurts. He says they're going to take some x-rays and see what they got. Marianne will help get her set up. Nurse Marianne places an ice pack on top of her ankle. Ruth gives her the evil eye as she walks away. Ruth yells at Sam to distract her. Sam says he's not going to be his regular chipper self. He hates hospitals. Justine walks in with her hands crossed, carrying all the snacks they could find, and places it on Ruth's lap. Sam gives Justine some more money and thanks her for bringing her stuff. Sheila comes in next and gives Ruth another pillow and blanket, saying she stole it from the patient next door who's probably dead. She says she gotta run because the nurse might have seen her. She kisses Ruth on the cheek and runs away. I think it's time for another montage. Let's do that. The show seems to think so. One of my favorite songs to sing, maybe because of 500 Days of Summer. Y'all have seen that movie, right? You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates. Artie sneaks into the room carrying 2 balloons. Dawn and Stacy doing a ventriloquist act to entertain her. Jenny playing with Ruth, showing her swan origami. Sam says he made a frog as he shows it off to Ruth and Jenny. Transitions over to Yolanda sneaking to the room and air humping the nurse from behind. The nurse turns around and Yolanda leaves. Up next is Tammy, who's reading a verse from the Bible dramatically. Deuteronomy 25:11-19. If 2 men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from her assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, what the fuck? You should cut off her hand or show her no pity. What? Okay, I'm totally taking that off. Tammy says it's like an action movie. She should have read this sooner. Up next is Rhonda doing a glow rap. Ruth, that's her name. She got hurt and it was a shame. But don't be sad, don't be worried. We're here to help. What rhymes with worry? Transition over to Carmen pulling the other side of the curtain saying hello to my little friend. She shows Ruth a teddy bear that she got from the store. That changes to Melrose sitting in the front of her with a Cosmopolitan magazine reading one of the quizzes. You're about to make love with a man for the first time. You A, turn off the lights. B, turn on the lights. C, ask what he prefers. Ruth is about to answer, but Melrose interrupts, saying, definitely B. If I didn't want to see them, why would I be making love to him in the first place, right? Jerry's next, doing a voodoo spell on Keith in a Caribbean accent. Blood of Toad, the spirit of darkness. Keith turns around looking like he's having a seizure and says, this sexy voodoo vixen put a spell on me. Keith gets on his knees and in a robotic voice says, a love spell. I'll do anything you say, Black Magic. Cherry says that this is her new wrestling character. What do they think? Ruth says she loved it. Sam says, yeah, it was scary. Sarcasm. Of course, it's a shout out to the original Glow girl, Big Bad Mama, portrayed by Lynn Braxton, who wrestled for Glow at this character from 1988 until its cancellation in 1990. Like the fictional villain Baron Samedi in the film Live and Let Die, the split monochrome face paint is meant to show the character's voodoo links. The X-ray technician, played by Christopher Rivas, who was the voice of Mateo Hernandez on the Call of Duty Vanguard video game, walks right in with a wheelchair and takes her to the X-ray room. Back in the waiting room, Bash arrives with Debbie, who asks how she's doing. Tammy says they don't know anything yet. Sheila tells her they know is that she's in horrible, horrible pain. Carmen adds that she can't walk. Yolanda says that other than that, she's peachy. Carmen hands Bash the clipboard form and tells him Ruth didn't have insurance. Bash asks how could she not have insurance? She's a professional wrestler. Cherry says, yeah, employed by Bash Howard Productions, who doesn't provide health care. Bash asks how many of them don't have insurance. They all raise their hands except for Melrose and Keith and Cherry. Melrose says that her parents pay for hers. Keith says him and Cherry do stunts and don't have a death wish. Bash says this is his responsibility and he will take care of it. He walks away with the clipboard. Debbie looks around the room and everyone's staring at her. Next scene, Sam is getting coffee. Artie is next to him eating another butter which he offers Sam. He tells her hospital gives him the creep. Artie says she failed out of med school, so this place brings out a lot of bad feelings. When she wasn't wrestling, she was studying. She asked if he didn't notice she was always had books with her. He says no, but he really doesn't pay attention to any of them. He asks her if she can take classes to get back in. She says she doesn't want to get back in. She only did it to make her parents happy. She is so tired of trying to make everyone happy. Sam tells her that he let his mother slowly deteriorate in a place like this instead of dying in a beach in Italy like she wanted to. Live your best life, Mama Sylvia. He says he just thought that the game was living as long as possible instead of, dying on your own terms. Big fucking mistake. He didn't ask for another butter and Artie hands him the bag.
Do you like to drink wine? Do you like to talk about your favorite things and rank them in categories? Then you have come to the right place. Welcome to The Sip List, a podcast where, you guessed it, we drink lots of wine and make lists of all our favorite things. My name's Amanda, and each week my guest and I will review a favorite wine we're drinking, or if they aren't cool enough to drink wine, then the lame beverage of their choice. And then we will rank our top 5 favorites of different things in different categories. You can expect to hear all kinds of things, from favorite horror movies to favorite Disney characters, favorite true crime books to favorite women in history. The episodes will be diverse, but they will always include wine, lists, and lots of laughs. You can find the Sip List on social media. On Facebook, just search the Sip List Pod. Be sure to like the page and join the private Facebook group for the most up-to-date info on everything that's happening. You can also find us on Instagram at the Sip List Pod. I'm really excited to bring you guys some fun and amazing content, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. And until next time, whenever life is tough, just keep sipping.
Back at the front desk, Bash is continuing to fill out the form. Sam and Artie arrive at the waiting room where everyone's waiting to hear good news. Artie hands a snack to Debbie, telling her that Sam bought them to share. Debbie asks for an update. Sam explains Ruth is getting an x-ray. They think this is just a sprain. He looks around the room and tells everyone she's not dying. It's after midnight. Everyone's tired, so go back to the motel. They did a great show. Carmen says they were amazing. Rhonda adds in up until the ankle. Jenny asks if they think they will get their old time slot back. Sam says no, he doesn't think so. They are going to die at 2 a.m. Artie adds that they will die on their own terms. Sam adds in, fuck yes they will. Melrose picks up her purse and calls everyone crybabies. She would drive everybody but get drunk while they ice their knees. Sheila doesn't want to leave Ruth alone. Sam says she's not alone. Don't worry, Sam and Bash will bring her back. They all get up from their chairs and leave. Justine is the last one to leave and tells her dad she'll see him at home. Debbie stays. Sam looks at her and tells her what. Debbie stays. Sam looks at her and tells her what room she's in. Scene changes to Ruth taking off the ice pack and looking at her swollen ankle. Debbie walks into her room asking how she's feeling. Ruth says she doesn't know. Melrose gave her a Valium. Debbie says that sounds good and asks if she has another one. Dr. Freeman walks in with good news, telling them it's a clean fracture, just snapped right in two, but there are no bone splinters, nothing shattered. This is such a beautiful break of A plus. So they'll get her going to the cast, and then she'll be on the crutches for 8 to 10 weeks at the most. Somebody will come by to get that started. The doctor leaves. Debbie says that's not that long. Ruth looks up and says the rest of the season she won't be on the show. Debbie says they're getting canceled anyways and it's just a job. Ruth says no, it's not. She worked 10 years to get a job that was more than just a crappy one-line role. It's never easy for her. She points at Debbie and tells her that she's the one that walks in and gets whatever job she wants. Debbie says she didn't mean to break her ankle. Ruth doesn't believe her. Debbie says it was an accident. Looks around to see if anyone's around and yells, unlike the time Ruth accidentally slept with her husband twice. Ruth says, how about the time Debbie accidentally made out with her co-star, what's-his-face, at her stupid Paradise Cove rap party, and she didn't tell anyone. Debbie yells that's completely different, and she knows it. Ruth cries and says she don't care anymore. She has eaten shit for months. She has done everything she can think of to make this right. Debbie says she can't make it right. Ruth yells, great, then she'll stop trying. She is so tired of apologizing about Mark that she even tried to love him enough to stay married to him. Debbie yells she's not married to him because he cheated on her with her. Ruth says she never loved Mark. Debbie yells at Ruth she doesn't have a right to say a word about her marriage. Debbie asks if she has a right to talk about Debbie's power complex or does she have to schedule a meeting with all the producers. Debbie says she earned her title. Ruth says right, her work ethic is legendary, reminding her how she sabotaged her date with Russell even though Debbie knew Ruth wanted to go on a date with someone in years. Debbie says forgive her, she doesn't feel bad about that at all. Ruth yells some more, reminding Debbie how she thought Ruth should let herself be raped to save their show. The show doesn't give she doesn't Ruth Gillette. Ruth. I hate saying that name now. Ruth yells some more, reminding Debbie how she thought Ruth should let herself be raped to save the show. The show she doesn't give a shit about. Debbie calls Ruth melodramatic, saying she cares about the show just as much as her. Ruth says no, she doesn't. She just needed a distraction, big surprise. She got what she wanted. Debbie could have slapped her and walked away. Instead, she took one thing she got. She continued. She doesn't have what Debbie has and probably never will. Debbie interrupts her, saying she misses this. Ruth never has anything. Debbie, be careful. Just downplay all your compliments. Just pretend all the things that you are so fucking hard for don't matter to you at all because she's going to feel sad and insecure about her life and suck all the joy out of every moment that you have. Poor Ruth. Ruth says, right. Debbie's a success, and she's just a disaster. That's how it's always been. Debbie says she never made her feel like a disaster. Ruth explains every time they saw each other, Debbie would draw it out, make Ruth give her all the details of every shitty audition, the horrible dates. They can roll around all her failures and mistakes, and then Debbie could go home to her house and her family and her life and feel comfortable with every choice she ever made, even though she was miserable. Debbie, who is now crying, says she was happy. Ruth calls bullshit. Debbie curses some more and walks out of the room. Ruth cries some more, covering her face. That was fucking unnerving. Fucking hell, this fight sucked. Okay, Debbie walks out to the waiting room. Sam asks about the prognosis. Debbie continues walking and yells, it's broken. Bash says he never felt so guilty about anything. Sam tells Bash he lived a charmed life. Bash says he thought he was going to have a wrestling show where no one was going to get injured. He says he destroyed his little family and turned Ruth into a gimp. Sam tells Bash not to be hard on himself. Ruth is going to go on to live a full life. Next scene, Debbie arrives at the motel, walks right into Sheila and Ruth's room. She apologizes to Sheila and tells her she thought she was with the other girls getting wasted. Sheila tells her she don't drink. Debbie asks if she can bring Ruth some of her clothes so she doesn't have to leave the hospital in a leotard. Sheila just stands there staring at her. Debbie says she knows what this looks like from the outside, but she's not trying to destroy Ruth's life. She begins to cry and continue. This isn't something elaborate revenge fantasy. Sheila asks if she's okay. Debbie says she doesn't know. She had a fight with Ruth and she's sorry. Sheila explains that her parents fight. They stockpile years of ammunition and then one day unload it all. Debbie interrupts her, thinking it's weird to think of Sheila having parents. What the fuck, Debbie? That's not... Sheila seems unbothered and continues that she's waiting for them to get divorced. They never do. They always end up back together. Sheila goes to the dresser, takes out a bunch of folded clothes and hands them to Debbie, telling her that she should be the one to bring the clothes. Debbie looks down at the clothes that was given to her and asks if she has anything cuter. Next scene at the hospital in Ruth's room, she is wearing a white cast. Sam walks in with the crutches and places them next to her. Ruth grabs both of her boots and shows them to Sam, telling him she won't be needing them anymore and should give them to Justine. She would make a great replacement Zoya. Sam says he's not giving her part away. Ruth tells him that he has to keep the story moving forward. Sam discusses that who cares, just a TV show. Ruth begins to cry again, explaining that everyone keeps saying that, not to her. She has people now, people who come with her to the ER, people who care that she's hurt. Sam says he knows it's just the easiest thing to say. He then says he doesn't want to make this show without her. He doesn't want to make this show without her. He's not going to make this show without her. Ruth figures they were all replaceable. Sam says she's not. Bash walks in with markers and a copy of the bill he just paid. Ruth is grateful but says he didn't have to. Bash says yes he did, because she couldn't have possibly afford it and he felt so guilty. He grabs one of the markers and writes on her leg, a Bash Howard Productions. Sam grabs the marker and writes his initials, SS. Ruth asks him if he could clarify that it's not a Nazi reference, maybe draw a heart around it or something. Sam says, wow, you're sensitive. He writes a note for Francis. Debbie walks in next, and Ruth looks at her almost happy that she came back. Debbie thought Ruth might want to leave the hospital with pants on. She turns to Sam and Bash as you may have heard Ruth and her got into a really big fight. Sam says everybody heard it. Bash says, yeah, the cashier at the gift shop wouldn't stop talking about it. Debbie happily explained that they thought they would give him a show and never got to finish their match. Bash says, alright, look, prior to the bone snapping, that wrestling was unreal, but they gotta tone it down. He can't afford everyone getting injured. He whispers into Sam's ear, he can afford 2 more people getting injured. Debbie asks Sam what's the plan. Sam says they got 4 episodes left. Fuck it, no one's watching, no one cares. Ruth can't even walk, so he figures they all do whatever the hell he wants to do and set the weirdos free and see what the hell happens. Ruth hopes they all have fun. Sam tells her she's not getting out of it. She's like a one-woman idea machine, and where they're going, she don't need her legs. Bash smiles and tells Sam he did see Back to the Future. Sam is annoyed and says yes he did. Bash gives Debbie the marker next. She writes down, sorry I broke your ankle. Ruth asks Sam if they can hire Reggie back. Sam asks who? Everyone groans. Sam says he's kidding. Yeah, who cares? Bring the Viking back to the sinking ship. Destination Unknown by Missing Persons places a montage of all 4 of them having an epic walk while wheeling Ruth out of the hospital, which now looks like daytime. They've been there all night. Perfect ending for the episode. It felt so meta with Sam saying there were 4 more episodes left, and this being episode 6. The fight, the fight needed to happen. That fight needed to happen. It took too much, but, it needed to be there. It, took the entire episode of it. I love how the creators took advantage of it being a binge-worthy show because I immediately wanted to know what happens next from the last episode. Hearing a crack to this episode, the fallout of the ankle breaking. What else? Everyone was in the show. Everyone did a perfect job. This episode was amazing. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. That's going to do it for me for this episode. We will be back next week with another episode review of Glow on Netflix. Before I go, I want to fade away with a question of the week for the podcast. I'm bringing it back. It's been a while since I did an episode about music. Months, actually, with Babel, my co-host. Maybe I can try to bring back Screaming Into the Void once again. But the question is for the listeners. Comment down below. Catch me in the chat or email me at fromunderdtheapron@gmail.com. I want to know, what are the songs that we heard on TV shows or movies and we went to go buy the CD? After watching an episode of your favorite show, did you hop online and wanted to stream the album of that song you just heard? Was the album a banger or was it a dead ringer? sound out down below. I want to include it with my list. Let me know what y'all thought of. And as always, follow us on our socials and support us from Under the Apron on Instagram, the Threads, YouTube, Apron_stories on the Twitter. Follow me and join my live streams on TikTok at Evolution of a Geek, where you will also find me doing the unedited version of the podcast that will then be posted on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or any other audio media you can listen to podcasts on. More info on the links on where you can listen or watch in the show notes. Don't forget to rate us and leave us a review. And if you feel you want a little bit more, support us on TikTok at Evolution of a Geek by subscribing. Join the Flawless Behavior Squad. And show up to the live stream to watch, and I will shout you out at the end of every episode. Like Menace Smiling, Rabbit, Lil Linguini, Forever Jane, Brandy Kimmy, Little Miss LB, Miniature Mommy, Age of Shadow 666, Casey M, JJ the Jet Payne, Squirrely Bree, Sandra Woodbury, Quick Draw, Floki's Viking Queen, Forever Miss Dawn, Belinda Gonzalez 429, Southern Twiz 0077, Dale the Wrestling Nerd, La Petite Mort, Mittens Hayes 420 Maine, Holes for a Slot. Still don't know what that name means. Aaron Mosher, E Bunny 06, Half Sized Heather, Lisa, Toasted Bagel, Moss Queen, Messy the Messenger, This Girl, Tiffany the Fence Girl, Princess and the Herb, Cheshire Cat Smile, Cloudy November, Trafficking Melodies, and Pleasure Passport 3.0. Get 20% off on adult toys when you enter discount code EVO at pleasurepassport.shop. Yes, adult toys, you know. Anyway, get 20% off on those. Discount code, again, is EVO. Link will be in the show notes. Check out the show notes for links to other podcast trailers that you heard on this episode. Send us a message of your favorite wrestling stories, questions, comments, ratings, or requests at our email. It is FromUnderTheApron@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, join the live, and being a huge part of this community. Tell your friends. Join us next time for more behind-the-scenes stories, movies, and TV show reviews when we come to you from Under the Apron. I'm Evo, I'm proud of y'all, and I love your faces. How's that go again? Bzz, 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 bzz.